I don't mean to be judgmental. I was glancing at today's story, and this is like, I don't mean to be judgmental about a given place, but this is like the most West Virginia story I've ever seen. Anyway, hi everybody. It's me, Steve. How y'all doing? It's April 30th, 2021. And like my opening clip probably implied, today's story is coming to us from West Virginia. And it's crazy and entertaining as a story, primarily because of the fact that nobody died. But it's also, considering the circumstances of the story, insanely tragic that stuff like this could happen. I'm sure in certain instances, it's just a matter of, if you have children, especially if you have infants, toddlers, newborns, you need to watch that. You need to keep an eye on these. These are freshly birthed humans that 99% of what they're doing, they don't really know what they're doing yet. You gotta watch these kids. They'll crawl away from you. Once the kids can crawl, they will. But in some instances, you just get people who just don't pay attention. And again, I hate to push a lot of stereotypes about a place like West Virginia, but I read today's story from April 30th many years back, and I just see all of the stereotypes. I see this redneck ass family living in some rundown cabin, and you know, they've got their family. I don't know how many kids they have. Maybe they only have one, maybe they have three, I don't know. But they're just kind of sitting in their cabin. Yeah. This is so disrespectful. They're just sitting in their cabin, drinking their moonshine, and just these backwoods people who have an infant, they have a baby that they need to be at least keeping a marginal eye on, but they just obviously were just too busy off just doing their own stupid crap, and they just were not paying attention to their child. Ugh. Simply put, today's story is about a baby who got run over by a train and survived. We're going to Bluefield, West Virginia. I have no idea what Bluefield looks like, if it's a decent sized town or if it's, you know, up in the mountains. I really don't know. I need to kind of look at it a little bit to kind of see if my heavily stereotype-ridden perspective on how I see this family looking, of that, you know, there's a family of this baby, and see if that was remotely accurate. Or then again, going back as far as the story goes, even a decent sized city in West Virginia could have been just tiny, little nothing back then. But anyway, it was Bluefield. So we got a train, big engine, pulling 10 freight cars. I mean, it's not a super long train, but it's a train. It's a cargo train. This thing is powerful enough. This thing could blow through a building and hardly obtain a scratch. And the article says it's Bluefield, West Virginia. It mentions that the train was traveling in the vicinity of Goodwill. So I'm guessing the story took place in the Bluefield Goodwill area. I don't know where either of those towns are, so but just as far as narrowing things down. So this, you know, freight train is chugging along, and fortunately, one of the guys that's he was, you know, on the train, he's hanging off one of the freight cars. He's kind of looking around to make sure everything's, you know, safe. He looks ahead, looks beyond the train, and sees what looks to him to be a baby, literally just sitting on the rails. The baby was just You know, he's probably sitting on the wood and poking it and touching the metal and feeling it vibrate because the train's running. And he's like, you know, what is all this? Like any baby would do. The baby in question, for the record, the baby's name as well as the family's name are never mentioned in the article. So I can't blast them directly. But yeah, the baby is only described as being 13 months old. So, you know, a little over a year. It's always a dog. So yeah, the baby was just a little bit over a year. So still, you know, an infant. It wasn't like this kid was walking around and speaking in full sentences yet. And so this guy hanging off the freight car is like, oh, shh. And he immediately signals to do an emergency stop. But, you know, I mean, when you're chugging along like that and you see something as small as a baby on the tracks, you gotta get pretty close to it before you're like, wait, what is that on the tracks? That looks like a baby. So even though they, you know, immediately applied all of the brakes on the train, tried to get it to skid to a stop, the train ran over the baby. And apparently, despite only being 13 months of age, and you know, infants tend to have, you know, better cognitive skills than we sometimes give them credit for, but this kid was a diamond in the rough. Because this baby, because they said the baby was sitting on the tracks, just sitting there, sitting upright, which means the train should have hit his upper body. But this baby, like, I don't know if it saw the train and it just something in its head said, this isn't right. The baby obviously, at some point as that train was trying to stop, flopped down on the ground and flattened out. Because the baby probably would have been hit and killed had it not reacted in such a way. So the baby ended up just flopping down flat, and lo and behold, the train ran right over it, and the baby was just safe and sound, just flat on its stomach, flat on its back, whichever one baby chose to do. So, you know, the train guys, they gotta be freaking because they know they ran over the baby. So they hop off the train like, oh crap, how does this happen? And they run down and they see the baby, and the baby's just under there. And other than like some like marks, like some blemishes, like not even really scratches or anything, just some blemishes along the temple and the cheek, which could have even been just dust and who knows what dribbling off the train. That was the only harm, if you can even call it that. That was the only harm that came to this baby after being run over by a freight train. So they you know, they pull the baby out, and they're probably wondering, what the hell is a baby doing down here? And eventually the baby, you know, was tracked back to the family. And of course, once the baby was returned to the family and the family was alerted as to what exactly had happened, they were, you know, what could they say? So they just inferred, well, the baby, which according to the article it said the baby couldn't walk yet, which at 13 months makes sense. The family just pretty much said, oh, the baby must have crawled away from the home and crawled down to the tracks nearby their house. And I'm like, even if these tracks were close to your home, how do you let this happen? How do you, you know, the baby can't even walk yet, and you let this baby get so far from home. If a baby can't walk yet and it's only crawling, it is a crime if that baby gets more than your front yard's distance away from your home. And this baby managed to leave their whole property and it's like, you have railroad tracks by your home. How are you not? You should have an electronic fence around your house with several other fences inside of that. So there's no way you could ever accidentally just let your baby slip away from your house like that. Like, even in the olden days, even if this is backwoods West Virginia, I still am just astonished that something like this, I'm going downhill, something like this could honestly happen. I mean, I get it. I'm sure much worse negligence has been, you know, found amongst babies and other experiences, but still, it doesn't excuse conduct like this. And it's just the fact that this baby dragged himself down to these railroad tracks and just decided to hang out there and had the presence of mind to go whoop and go flat as the train rolled in and rolled over him. It's just great. Give that baby a medal. He knew what to do. So just, again, I don't want to hate on West Virginia or anything, but is that not just a quintessential sounding West Virginia story where you just lose complete track of where your baby is, and then your baby in turn ends up getting run over by a train? I don't know. It's truly bizarre. But hey, bizarre is what this series is all about. And that being said, that's a good moment for a transition. So first of all, thank you again for watching today's video and watching and supporting this series. I'm almost 2 months in, and I'm just chugging along and keep putting it out, and I'm planning on continuing to put this stuff out until literally I get so worn out by it that I just literally have to just throw my phone down and say I'm done. I don't think that's coming anytime soon. So you can look forward to this series hopefully being around for a long time, but it's still time and it's still money, and I'm still a small channel that needs to grow. So if you want to help me out, remember to like, share, subscribe, hit up my Patreon. I can actually use some Patreon help right now in my present circumstances, and it helps allow me to continue doing what I do as much as I possibly can. The link to my Patreon, and I'm always posting new stuff there as well, so you're getting something in exchange for giving me something. The links to my Patreon, as well as my Instagram and Facebook pages, all closely related to the content I'm producing on my This Day in History channel, as well as my primary channel, Steve the Amateur Historian. They can all be found in the description below if you want to venture on over there and see a little bit more and help me out a little bit. All that said, thank you so much again for watching, for supporting this channel, for supporting this series, for supporting my channels, all that stuff. And all that said, this has been Steve, and I'll see you tomorrow.